We got an opportunity to meet with 2 out of the 3 free agents that the Raiders have signed so far on Thursday and got plenty of takeaways from those conversations. That plus a whole lot more comes up on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for March 15th, 2024.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, you're checking us out on YouTube. We appreciate it. It's awesome. The show continues to grow. That's because of you and my man, Ari. Ari does a great job each and every day making sure we're on YouTube. We're looking good. We're sounding good. We appreciate him. We shout him out. You can check him out on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. As you can imagine, a lot of feedback got on the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line on Thursday based off of Thursday's show, based off of what Raider Nation heard from Christian Wilkins, from Gardner Minshew on Thursday as the Raiders made them available to the media. Got a lot of feedback, plus the quarterback conversation is obviously on and popping as well. So we'll get as many calls and texts in as possible in segment number 3, trying to close out the week really strong. Segment number 2, you'll hear from those guys, Christian Wilkins and also Gardner Minshew. Had plenty of takeaways from what we got to hear from them on Thursday. 2 good dudes, I'll tell you that off top. 2 really good dudes that I think fit in with what the Raiders are trying to do as far as build characters, build guys that are fitting in with the Raider way as opposed to any other kind of way that's gone on with the silver and black as of late. They're trying to get things back to what it used to be, and I think guys like Gardner Minshew, guys like Christian Wilkins will definitely help in that scenario. So segment number 2, you'll hear from those guys. Hear a couple sound bites from each of them. Like I said, that's coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day. As I always do, and we'll get right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. And off top, I want to apologize. To Raider Nation, and I want to apologize to Christian Wilkins because many times on Thursday's show, I called him Christian Wilkerson, and that is not his name. And I'm better than that, and you know I'm better than that. And so I just want to go ahead and throw that disclaimer out there. And it's funny because I knew that I did it. I mentioned it on Thursday's show, like, man, why do I keep doing that? And I've been doing it ever since really he agreed to sign with the silver and black. And I kept wondering why. And so while we were waiting to meet with him on Thursday at the Intermountain Health Performance Center, I was talking to Vinny. I was like, dude, Vinny, I don't know why I keep calling him Christian Wilkerson, but I do. And Vinny looks at me and goes, because of the wide receiver that's on the roster, Christian Wilkerson. I'm like, man, boom, there it is. I said, well, at least I'm not crazy, right? At least I'm not just out of there and just making up stuff or adding letters to his name. So just apologies. A lot of Raider Nation reached out and let me know about myself. One guy tweeted and was like, man, I hope Q don't embarrass us at the press conference. No, don't worry. I'm not going to do that. I realize my mistake, but let me come out here and apologize because I don't want to misrepresent Raider Nation and of course myself. That's not, I'm definitely a lot better than that. But let's go ahead and jump into the news and notes of the day, as I always do. And off top, another correction that I wanted to make was about Jimmy G and his status as far as his release. He was released officially on Wednesday when the new league year opened up, and the Raiders had planned to just release him straight up, and then they changed their mind before they actually made it official. So I did not know that. So on Thursday's show, I was talking about, they just went ahead and took the cap hit, and they're saving about $11 million, and they can get it right away. Well, then they changed their mind. So as a result, his $28.3 million cap hit will stay on the books until June. When June comes, they'll open up about $24 million in cap space with the dead money hit split between 24 and 25. So, it's a little bit of extra savings. They could split it up between 2 years. It looked like because of that suspension that he's getting for the first 2 games of the 2024 season with whatever team he's on, they were just going to go ahead and just take that whole hit right away. So it's not split up between 2 years. But after further review, they changed their mind and decided not to. So I wanted to make sure to correct that as well. So currently, right now, according to overthecap.com, Jason, matter of fact, from overthecap.com, the Raiders have about $23.3 million in cap space after the tight end Harrison Bryant signing who will be coming into the facility sometime today. He already signed his contract, so it's already done deal records, but he'll get in and, get his equipment together and tour the facility. He'll be doing that sometime today. So I just wanted to update you on that. Also, Max Crosby, he was on the NFL Report podcast with Steve Weish, and that's a really good podcast. I definitely encourage it. Steve Weish was on my radio show just last week, as a matter of fact, but wanted to bring you a couple sound bites from that and Max Crosby. The first one is Max Crosby talking about the addition of the new defensive tackle, his new running buddy, Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, super excited about it. Obviously, Christian, hell of a player. I've known him all the way from back in college. After my redshirt sophomore year, we went to it was a touchdown club in Columbus. We ended up being together and spending some time together with our girls and spending a night together. It was a great time, and we got to get to know each other a little bit better. And then obviously seeing what he's done in his career, we went to the combine together. Obviously Cleveland Farrell, really good friend of mine, literally a brother to me. He was teammates with him. So we've known each other for a good amount of time now. And, we've had some great conversations and, obviously we end up pulling the trigger and bring him here to Las Vegas.
So there's Max Crosby right there just talking about Christian Wilkins and kind of the fact that he goes back with him for quite a ways and knew him when they were back in college. And it's so funny whenever you hear Max Crosby talk and other guys talk and like, oh yeah, I go back with this guy. You realize how small the fraternity that is, NFL players and college football players. And even though it looks like there's so many of them have backgrounds that cross paths. And so Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, they have that. And matter of fact, Christian talks about Max Crosby. That was one of the first people he mentioned in his press conference on Thursday. And you'll hear that coming up in segment number 2. Then I thought this other soundbite was really good to pass along. Again, I encourage you to go check out the whole podcast. It's the NFL Report podcast with Steve Weish from the NFL Network. But this one is on his health. Remember, he had offseason thumb surgery and knee surgery. So here's Max Crosby just kind of updating everybody on where he is health-wise.
I'm doing incredible. I started January 22nd, earliest I've ever been in the building. In an offseason, I've been getting to it. I'm already back boxing. I'm able to throw this right hand in my training as well. My knee is feeling incredible. I'm able to run in the treadmill, run in the pool, and I'm flying. My cardio is getting there. Back to, like I said, I pride myself on being the best in every category, and I know I'm getting closer to that every single day. So it's been an incredible offseason. I feel great. My knee's feeling great. My hand as well. So yeah, I got the best team around me. Rick Slate, AJ Nibel, Ricky, my nutritionist, everybody, Alex Guerrero, working on my body 5 times a week. It doesn't stop. And those guys, without them, it wouldn't be possible. And that's what I try to get my guys to do. We got a ton of D linemen. We have almost 10 D linemen in the building already. We've been training for over a month now together and getting after it. So yeah, we're focused on being the best in the world, and that's what we plan on doing.
So there's Max. He's good to go, right? He's already back in the facility doing his thing, as he always does. He got back to the facility earlier than he ever has, according to him, right? I mean, he's just that guy that there's one thing you never have to worry about him, and that's him working. Right? Saw pictures and videos of him floating around the facility on Thursday and meeting with Minshew and meeting with Wilkins and having a big smile on his face, no cast on his hand. His knee is fine, so he sounds like he's good to go, and he's starting to train and starting to encourage guys to show up and work as well to be the best that they could be, as you heard him say to Steve Weish there, part of the NFL Report podcast. Just a couple sound bites that I wanted to pass along to you from that. That's all I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Excited to get to segment number 2 so you can actually hear from the guys that we met with on Thursday, Christian Wilkins and Gardner Minshew. I got some good takeaways from it. Plus, you'll hear from what they got to say. And like I said, I'll respond to their answers. That's coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I did want to tell you about Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Got a couple sound bites from each guy, Christian Wilkins and Gardner Minshew, that I want you to hear from their press conferences on Thursday. And we got there about 9:30. The press conferences started just a little bit after 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I thought it was really good. My overall takeaway is these guys fit in with exactly what the Raiders want to do. I didn't know what to expect from Gardner Minshew. We knew that he's a guy that is a 2-year contract guy. He's got $15 million guaranteed. So didn't know, exactly what his demeanor was going to be like, kind of what his attitude. Obviously don't know him, but man, he came away, and I think he's a crowd favorite. I think people, are much more encouraged by what they heard from him on Thursday than they were when they first announced that they were signing Gardner Minshew. And of course, Christian Wilkins he's the big ticket. He's the one that everyone was excited about, the addition of him, and he did not disappoint at all. As a matter of fact, he opened up the presser like this.
Raiders! All right, now we're good. Let's get to it. Yeah.
So there he is. I mean, he's all the way in with being a member of the Silver and Black. He yelled out that Raiders a couple times on Thursday. As a matter of fact, one when he was just finished signing his contract, and then right there when he opened up the press conference. As soon as Vinny asked him a question, before he even answered the question, he just put his finger up and boom, let it rip. Raiders. He was fired up and excited. And look, Christian Wilkins has played 1,756 snaps since 2022, which is tied with the Commanders' defensive tackle Jerome Payne for the third most in the NFL among defensive linemen. The only defensive linemen who played more during that span, Lions defensive end Aiden Hutchinson with 1,846 snaps, and you guessed it, Raiders defensive end Max Crosby with 2,075. So you think that this guy isn't ready to work? He is ready to work, and he let it be known. He probably met with us for about 20 minutes. He let it be known that he was ready to get to work. So Vinny asked him the first question. It's a question that a lot of people asked, and we've talked about it here on the podcast about guys wanting to come play for AP and guys excited about what's going on in Las Vegas. So Vinny asked him, besides the money, what drove you to be here in Las Vegas?
Just definitely before I answer your question and any other questions, I just definitely want to, from the top down, thank the owner, Mark Davis, Tom, everybody, for getting me here and just invested in me, not only as a player, but as a person and the man and everything. I'm really humbled to be here. So far, just being here today, it's a great organization, and I couldn't be more excited about getting started here and starting off this new chapter in my life, this next chapter of my NFL career, and I'm really looking forward to it. Vegas is obviously a great city, great place. There's a lot to be excited about. Coach Pierce and his energy and the things that the team was able to do last year toward the end and during his time, taking over. There's a lot of great teammates, a lot of things to be excited about. There's one big reason to definitely want to come here, and that's number 98. He's obviously a heck of a player, and I got a lot of respect for who he is and how he operates and how he plays, and I'm excited to be his teammate, and a lot of other guys as well, just even, seeing the defense and, getting to know those guys, and guys have been around here today, just kind of chopping it up with them too. So I'm just really excited to be here.
So, of course, in free agency, money is always going to be, the deciding factor at the end of the day, right? He's not going to take a bargain deal just to come to Vegas because he believes in what's going on. But you could tell that he believes in what's going on. You could tell that he believes in what the Raiders are building. And, I had C. Perk on my radio show. I had C. Perk on the podcast. And you heard when he said, hey, there was guys in that Miami locker room that said, those Raiders, man, they didn't quit. They didn't go away. They dealt with adversity and they handled it well, right? They took notice to what the Raiders have going on. It might not have been specifically AP related, but he knows what AP has got going on. So another question was one that I asked him, and it was about Max Crosby. Max Crosby was one of the first guys that he mentioned, right? I think that's cool, too. Before I even get to that soundbite, I think that's really cool that I remember Max Crosby being a 4th-round pick, a guy on Hard Knocks, a guy who broke his hand, a guy who, went and put a cast on it and got back into a preseason game because he didn't even know if he was going to make the roster. Now guys want to go and play with Max Crosby. Even Chandler Jones, I know that didn't work out, but remember that was one of the first things Chandler Jones said, I get to play with Max Crosby. Well, But Christian Wilkins, he mentioned Max Crosby off top as well. So here's my question to him about him and Max. Just have they talked and got together on, how they are going to be teammates? You hear my question, you hear his response.
Q Myers from Raider Nation Radio 920. Have you had those conversations with Max, and what do you think it's going to be like with you next to him on that?
Yeah, no, we definitely talked a little bit, and just about the the possibilities and things we can do, but it's going to have to be built. It's definitely a process and a journey. It's just going to have to start with just getting to know each other better, and and not just us, but again, it's going to be a team effort. There's gonna it's gonna take all 11 guys on defense at all times, to make this thing work and to do good things here. So definitely just looking forward to the possibilities and just being one piece of the puzzle. No one man's bigger than the other. I'm just a small piece, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
So obviously, the work is not done. The work is not even started yet. Right, they just got into the building, saw some video of them, talking, chopping it up a little bit. They got a lot of work to do, but man, that's going to be a great 1-2 punch, and that's going to help Tyree Wilson as well. And a matter of fact, Christian was asked about Tyree Wilson and the fact that Christian was a former first-round pick. His first year didn't go great, and he continued to work and grind, and he just signed a big-time free agent contract. So he was asked about Tyree Wilson and if he kind of knows what position Tyree is in right now. And it's funny, it was great, his answer. Loved this answer from Christian Wilkins talking about Tyree Wilson.
I'm really excited to get around Tyree, truly, because, even with all this going on, I think, about my journey and reflecting back on, my path kind of getting here and the way it looked for me my rookie year. I didn't think I'd be in this position. I didn't think I'd be in front of you guys, So I'm definitely going to make it a goal of mine to help him out as much as I can, be there for him in any way he needs me, because I know, how difficult it can be, the pressures and all that other stuff, the expectations and all that. So, I'm there for him in any way he needs because, like I said, I went through all of that, and it was definitely a rough start for your boy. So, but I'm glad to be here. I didn't get down about anything. Just kept working, kept grinding, and I seen him in here today, and that's the first start. Just just be around, get to work, put your head down, keep grinding, and see where you end up.
That's fantastic, right? To have a guy want to come into the building and say, I can't wait to get with Tyree, and also say that I saw him already, he's in the building right now, is encouraging as well. Right, I know Tyree took some time off after the season, went on vacation with his family, but to be in the building, March 14th, March 15th, right, mid-March, that's awesome. That means that he's ready to get to work, and he's getting to work with Max. He's getting to work with Christian now, right? And you heard Max in segment number 1 when he's talking to Steve Weiss. We got like 10 guys on our defensive line that are already here working. These guys aren't just trying to be a cute story from last season. They're trying to build off that, and that is something to get excited about. The final soundbite I want you to hear from Christian Wilkins is on his personality. Paul Gutierrez from ESPN actually asked the question about his personality and fitting in. And the reason I want you to hear this is because I want you to hear that same question basically posed to Gardner Minshew. But here's Christian Wilkins talking about his personality and fitting in with the Raiders.
Paul Gutierrez from ESPN. What about your personality makes you such a good fit, just culture-wise, with this organization?
Yeah. That's a great question, because definitely just being here, definitely getting a feel for the people and everybody, and just kind of like the big thing is be yourself. And I'm such a character, such an animated, sick, twisted individual up here, and I just love the game. I love the grind, and you just feel that here. Just people who just love ball, just love the just great energy, and like you can just kind of tell everybody's accepting of who everybody is, and everybody's just already themselves. So. And you can kind of tell that playing against the Raiders, and just kind of just seeing it on TV and things like that. Just something's different about this place and just how the people go about it, and everyone's just, like I said, themselves, and it's just great energy here, and I'm glad I could be a part of it.
So be yourself is something that Antonio Pierce is really stressing to everybody on the team, something that they didn't have the last couple years under the Josh McDaniels watch. They weren't allowed to be themselves. That wasn't encouraged. That is encouraged. Matter of fact, it's just about enforced now by Antonio Pierce and company, and I think that is a big deal. So that was just a few of the sound bites from Christian Wilkins. Really good stuff as we got to meet him, and very encouraged by what he's going to bring to the table for the silver and black, and what he's going to do for Max and everyone else along that defensive line, and even the guys on on the rest of the defense. He's just going to help in such a major way. So what about Gardner Minshew? Well, when you think about Gardner Minshew, you got to think about little ass boy, right? What do I mean by that? Well, here, check it out.
Max Crosby is so damn angry.
Little ass boy.
He keeps calling everybody little ass boy. Hey, little ass boy. I'm little out here, but not always, you know.
Q Myers from Raider Nation Radio 920. Someone's going to ask you, so have you had the little ass boy conversation with Max yet?
Yeah, sure enough. Saw him. He's a big ass boy, is what he is. God dang. But nah, man, it was awesome. You know, those are guys, you know, not as much fun to play against, but if they're on your team, absolutely love it, man. Excited to be with him, Christian, some of the best, you know, talkers I've been around in the NFL. To have them on our side, to practice against them every day, it's just going to make me better. I'm super excited about it.
So there you go. That goes back to NFL films when they had Gardner Minshew mic'd up, and he was talking about, you heard him talking about Max Crosby. Every time Max Crosby got near him, little ass boy. So, of course, I had to be the guy to ask him about it because I knew somebody would, and it really took off. Like my guy Ari Mayrod from 33team.com, he clipped it and tweeted it out, and it got like, I don't know, thousands of likes and retweets and this, that. The NFL caught it. It went viral with them. Bussin' with the Boys, they put it on their social medias, and it went viral. I mean, it was wild. I didn't know it was going to do all that. I just thought I'd ask the question because somebody else would. I love it. He said, yeah, I saw Max back there. He's a big-ass boy. Like, this dude is so funny, man. Gardner Minshew, his personality is another one. Like I mentioned with Christian Wilkins, a guy who his personality is encouraged. So here's Gardner Minshew talking about expectations, and you'll hear him talk about his personality on the follow-up about the Raiders way. Check it out.
Man, I always have kind of two goals for myself everywhere I go, is to get better and have fun. So I look forward to getting here, working really hard, and to enjoy it, and to enjoy being around these people. Seems like there's such a great energy in this building. All the guys are super into it, and just look forward to being a part of it.
There's a certain way about the Raiders. Do you feel like that way is kind of your way?
I think so, man. I love, you know, one of the first things I saw coming in here is be you. You know, be yourself, and to have the confidence to do that, I think is huge, man. I think when you have that confidence, you can play a lot better and have a lot more fun.
So he's got the right mindset when it's talking about, you know, just having opportunities and, you know, just looking to try to continue to improve. And, you know, you heard what he said, you know, walking in the building, it's be you. Be you. That's what you're going to hear from everybody. That is the theme. That is what Antonio Pierce is trying to make sure he hammers home. Everyone who walks through those doors, they are encouraged to be themselves. Don't try to be anyone else, but be yourself. Be excited about coming to work. Be ready to grind and work really hard, but have a good time while you're at it. That's something he said on November 1st, and that's something that he's still saying to this day. So obviously there's an unsettled quarterback room. Right? You know that Aiden O'Connell is there. He had 9 starts last year. He started the last 9 games. Obviously started earlier in the season as well. Went 5-4 down the stretch. So you know he's there. Minshew is now there. And we're assuming that that's going to be a guy in the draft. So Minshew was asked his thoughts on an unsettled quarterback room.
Yeah, no, I'm always looking for opportunities to compete, man, and this is a great one here. Excited to get in and compete with a team that I feel like has a chance to be really good. You know, played them at the end of the year last year, felt some of that momentum, some of that energy that was building. And anytime you have a chance to compete and win, that's all you can really look forward to.
So he's not going to give you the long, lengthy answers, but he just kind of lets it be known. Hey, you know, it kind of is what it is. I'm here to compete, right? That's all I care about. All I need to do is compete. And so I asked him about his experience from last season. You know, in Indianapolis, he went in there. He was the veteran quarterback. He was familiar with Shane Steichen and his system, but Anthony Richardson was the guy. Well, Anthony Richardson only lasted a couple games. Gardner Minshew had to start 13 games in 2023 because Anthony Richardson went down so early. So I asked him the question about his experience and you know, what that kind of meant to him and how he can use that moving forward.
How would you describe your opportunity last year when it looked like the rookie Anthony Richardson was going to be the guy, and then he went down early and you had to carry the load the rest of the season, and you were able to adjust and handle it?
Yeah, no, it's crazy just the different, you know, ways you got to get in, and obviously don't want it to ever happen like that. But at the end of the day, grateful for every opportunity you get in this league. They're not easy to come by. So, man, was able to get in there, have a little stretch of starting. It was a great experience for me. I feel like just being that guy for that much time consecutively. And, yeah, I look forward to just using that experience here.
So for a guy to be ready and know what the situation is and know that he's not slated to be the starting quarterback once that hotshot rookie comes in. That could be the situation that he's in this year. We don't know. We don't know what the Raiders are going to do, if they're going to end up trading up and going and getting their guy, or if they're going to maybe sit and pick the best player available and then get a quarterback at some point. We know another quarterback's going to be added to the room, but I mean, he's getting paid money where he could end up starting some games this season. I mean, I would not be shocked if he starts the season as a starting quarterback. But if the Raiders go and get Jaden Daniels or whoever the case may be, you guy could end up being the starting quarterback by sometime in the season. But Gardner Minshew knows the situation. The final soundbite from Gardner that I want you to hear is awesome. It really is. It makes me laugh. This was just on his experience dealing with Christian Wilkins. And, you know, he's had to deal with them. He's had them in joint practices. And just listen to how he describes Christian Wilkins. I love this answer from Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. He's just like, he's always talking, you know. Played against him, practiced against him, joint practices, you know. You hear him a lot. You know, it can be a lot, you know. But I've also heard from everybody that's played with him, he's like the best teammate that you could have, you know. So another one of those guys, you know, a little annoying to play against, but great to have on your team, and will definitely make me a better talker being against him too.
That answer had me laughing so hard. I played that on the radio on Thursday, and I had to play it twice. I mean, just the way he could be a lot. He could be a little much, right? But if he's on your side, cool. But he could be a little annoying having to play against. Like, I mean, it's so funny because you know he's being authentically himself. And again, I know it sounds like a broken record when I say that, but that's what it's all about. These guys are authentically themselves, and they're going to do that. And it's such a big difference between Wilkins and Minshew, but at the same time, they're still the same because they're their own characters, right? I mean, you can tell that they're different walks of life. You know, they're different. You know, certain different things drive each guy. I mean, they're not the same dude, but they've got same traits, and that's the thing about it. I think the traits and the culture is something that you're going to see the Raiders really work very hard to make sure that they're all in line with, and that's something that I got to give Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce a lot of credit for being able to do that, and do that in a pretty quick fashion. And you know, it's funny seeing some of the coaches and assistant coaches in the room while we were meeting with these guys, just standing off to the side, wanting to listen to what they had to say. That was also something that stood out to me, and something that we hadn't seen over the past couple of years. But to see guys, you know, from, like I said, assistants in the media room, listening to those two dudes talk, told me how kind of locked in sync all those guys are already, and that's only going to grow. And obviously, they still have more players that they're going to bring in. But what are your thoughts? What did you think when you heard those guys earlier, or what you thought when you heard those guys right now? 707-654-4693. It's the Locked On Raider Podcast voicemail line. Your calls and texts are coming up next. And we'll get right to that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. And remember, Sunday is Selection Sunday. You can start filling out your brackets as of right then. But right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick on who's going to win it all, who's cutting down the nets. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Bet on college hoops until they cut down those nets. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with Raider Hayes in Kansas. He's calling to talk about the quarterback position and what he thinks could be a crazy scenario that could happen in April's draft. Here he is, Raider Hayes in Kansas.
What's up, Q? Raider Hayes, Mulvane, Kansas. It's been a minute. I haven't called. I got a weird theory here. Since we picked up Minshew yesterday, so we've got AOC Minshew. There's talk about us getting Justin Fields in a trade, but check this out. What if Fields stays with the Bears and they keep their #1 pick and they get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Washington would take Caleb Williams, and then we'd have to try to trade up with the Patriots for the 3rd pick if we wanted to try to get J.P. Daniels. But if that doesn't pan out, I think we go O-line, cornerback for sure in the 1st round. Either way, Christian Wilkins, that D-line's going to be deadly. We are going to cut the head off of the snake. soft-ass NFL analyst. Greeny, kiss my butt. Raider Nation out.
Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yes, I think that would be super crazy. I don't see something happening like that. I think the Bears get a quarterback. If the Raiders want Daniels, they must get the number 2, in my opinion. 3 will probably be too late, especially after the Washington Commanders traded Sam Howell on Thursday. It's kind of like starting to shape things up. And then the Bears, they went and traded for Keenan Allen from the Chargers. So, I mean, whoever the quarterback's going to be in Chicago, they got some weapons already there for them, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. But you're starting to see how the draft is potentially shaping up with some of the moves that are being made at the top of the list when it comes to the Bears, Washington, and even New England. Thanks so much for that call. I appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Trey in the A. That's Arkansas. It says, hey, Q, it's Trey from the A. Do you think Telesco and AP are more willing to give up 3 firsts and a little something extra to move up to the top 3 now because AP might already have a good knowledge on players coming out of the draft the next few years from his time at Arizona State? The draft is more than first round, and half the time first-round players don't pan out anyways. You can still build a great team around a young quarterback with players like Max and Devontae and with other 6 rounds in the draft. Go get our guy Jaden Daniels. Keep up the good work, Q. Raiders. That's Trey in the A. And, yeah, I do. I think that they are willing to give up some draft capital, a lot of it, like 3 1s and something on top, to go get their quarterback if they believe that Jaden Daniels is their guy. And just my gut feeling tells me that they do. Right, the look that AP had on his face when he was talking about him at the combine, the way that Jaden Daniels was talking about AP when he was at the combine, it just feels like it makes all the sense in the world. Doesn't mean that's going to happen, but I think that if they can get their guy, they're not going to trade up and just get a guy. They're going to have to trade up and get their guy. They're not going to do like the Niners when they went and got Trey Lance. They traded up there and they're like, well, we don't know who we're going to get yet. And I believe that they honestly didn't know who they were going to get. If they're going to get Mac Jones, they're going to get Trey Lance. Obviously, they got the wrong decision. No matter what they did, Trey Lance would have been the wrong decision. Mac Jones would have been the wrong decision. But they did do it because they believed in it. They just got bailed out, and they got a quarterback at the very last pick, of the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, in Brock Purdy. So that worked out really well. Also, as far as just the other rounds, yeah, you could definitely build. And a lot of times those guys are the better players, right? I mean, the league is full of more, later round guys than it is first round guys, right? I mean, it's just simple as that. Guys like Max Crosby, 4th round pick. Guys like Nate Hobbs, 5th round pick, right? I mean, Hunter Renfrow, 5th round pick. I know he's not with the team anymore, but he was a 5th round pick. I mean, Devontae, he wasn't a 1st round pick, right? I mean, it's just that simple. Everybody doesn't come out of the 1st round, but if you see your quarterback, I believe you need to go get your quarterback, and you get your quarterback. If he is your guy, you go up and do whatever it takes, especially when you have a talented team. I feel like they have an opportunity that they could do that right now. When they're less talented, when they have a lot of holes, a lot of voids, then I would say, nah, you probably can't do it. You can't afford to. But I think right now would be an ideal time for the Raiders to go and get that done. But Trey, thanks so much for the text. I appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Kevin in the 913. He's calling to talk about the quarterback position and what he thinks might happen and how he felt after hearing what Minshew had to say at his presser on Thursday. Here's Kevin in the 913.
Hey, Q. It's Kevin from the 913. It's been a while, man. It's been a hot minute. But I just wanted to call, say still love what you're doing, appreciate what you're doing. And some thoughts on the Raiders quarterback situation. The more I think about it, the more unlikely it is that the Raiders are able to move into that top 3. It seems like the Bears are done with Fields. The Commanders just traded Sam Howell today. They're definitely going to take someone at 2. The Pats at 3. They traded Mac Jones for next to nothing. So, trading into the top 3, probably unlikely at this point. Jane Daniels is probably a pipe dream. But, after watching that conference today, I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is the quarterback of the future, but you can't help but laugh. You can't help but like the guy. And, obviously he filled in pretty good last year for Anthony Richardson after he got hurt. And, almost took the Colts to the playoff, but I'd say a worse team than the Raiders had. The more I think about it, roll with Gardner, bring in Michael Penix. We saw how accurate he was. If you think about how many times Devontae was open deep, Jacoby was open deep, Trey Tucker was open deep, that's 7, 10, 14-point swings that, how many more games do the Raiders win with that? I think Penix would look great in silver and black, and be nice seeing that ball thrown. And if, God forbid he does get hurt, then that's where Minshew steps up. And P.S., by the way, Kansas still sucks, bud. All right. Love you, man. Appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day.
Kevin, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. Minshew was fun. Right, you couldn't help but to laugh, and he could be very serviceable. And there's no doubt in my mind that he'll probably get some burn, maybe even a lot of burn in 2024, right? I mean, there's just no doubt. I think him and Aiden O'Connell will definitely battle it out, and whoever other is going to be. Is he going to be a franchise guy long term? I've heard people say maybe he's the next Rich Gannon. I've heard people talk about the snake. I don't want to put those kind of expectations on Gardner Minshew. I like him. I like what I heard from him, and I know that he can go in there and hold it down. I mean, hell, he started 13 games for the Colts. That tells you all you need to know, that he can start. He started in Jacksonville. He started in Philadelphia when need be, when he had to go in and fill in for Jalen Hurts. So he can do many different things. He doesn't mind being a mentor either. And I think that is a really big deal, that he does not mind being a mentor. As far as the top of the draft, it's taking shape, like I mentioned. Howell gets traded to Seattle from Washington. Keenan Allen gets traded to Chicago. They're loading up for weapons for their quarterback. My question is, who's their quarterback going to be? They still have Fields on the roster, and they've had no convos with or about Caleb Williams. So what's coming next? That's the $1 million question that I do not have the answer to. But thanks so much for your call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider L in the 702 who says, "Hey, Q, with the Raiders signing Minshew, how does that affect the draft? I see Minshew as a system quarterback that plays on schedule, can make all the necessary throws, that can move around the pocket and create if needed. Kind of like Penix. Do you think the Raiders are showing their hand on draft with this signing?" That's Raider L from the 702. Thanks for the text. And no, I don't think it's showing their hand. I think there's multiple guys that could do that, right? I think there's multiple guys, and I think you can be extreme athlete like Jaden Daniels is as well, and he can do that. Because remember, he's backed up Trevor Lawrence, who's very athletic, but he can stand in the pocket and throw the ball around the yard. He's backed up Jalen Hurts, who's very athletic, but can stand in the pocket and throw the ball around the yard. And then he backed up Anthony Richardson, who is all athlete at this point. We don't know if he's even a good quarterback, but we know he's all athlete, and he backed him up. Did he have the same style? No, but he did a lot of RPO stuff in Indy because that's Shane Steichen's system, and he was able to do it. So it doesn't necessarily show their hand, but I think a guy like Daniels obviously fits with what they want to do. I think Penix fits with what they want to do. Hell, I think Bo Nix would probably fit with what they want to do. McCarthy probably fits with what they want. I think there's plenty of options for the Raiders. I mean, I really do, just because these quarterbacks, they're all different, but they all have some similar traits to each other. Penix obviously is the guy that could throw the deep ball and has the pinpoint accuracy, and he's not going to run around the yard as much. He can get out of the way if he needs to. Obviously, what Jaden Daniels could do. He won the Heisman Trophy, went over 1,000 yards on the ground, but also can throw the ball all over the yard, has great accuracy down the field as well. So, that's one extreme to the other, right? What McCarthy could do with his legs. Didn't have to do a ton with his arm in college, but from what everybody's saying, he can. I haven't seen it. None of us have, but they're saying he can. Bo Nix obviously put up crazy numbers at Oregon, so he can do some things as well. I feel like there's a bunch of options for the Raiders. And then, hell, Spencer Rattler later on, he could do some really good things. He can use his legs when need be. Third down, he sees some grass, he can go pick up the first down, and he's got a strong arm as well. They were questioning his arm strength at the combine, and at his pro day, all he did is, on the run, throw the ball 65 yards and throw it deep, and only had, I think, 2 incompletions, and those were drops. So Spencer Rattler is also a guy that I think is part of the conversation as well, but he's probably a guy that have to sit and learn the NFL game probably for a season or two before he's ready to be a starter, if he's ready to be the starter. So thank you so much for that text. I appreciate you. How about a call from Mr. Pigface in Salt Lake City? And I just got time for a couple more. He's calling to talk about the loss of Meek Robertson and how the Raiders could fill that void. Here he is, Mr. Pigface in Salt Lake City.
Yo, Q, this is Mr. Pigface from Salt Lake City. Just wanted to talk about Meek Robertson, man. That's a tough loss right there, man, for us. I liked him coming out of the draft. He was making huge plays, man. He was getting better and better every year. He made a few good plays for us last year, man. He was starting to be a playmaker. Even though he was undersized, I thought he just had that dog in him, man. It's a tough loss. The line's got a good one. And, now we got a hole in the cornerback position. I mean, hopefully, free agency, we can fill that hole just like we were talking about this past episode you had. Free agency is about filling holes. I think Justin Simmons is still out there, right? What do you think about that? I mean, he's a safety, huh? Jeez. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do about that. If you got anything on that, on the cornerback, who would be good for us in that position. But yeah, Well, I just thought it was a tough loss, man. It sucks losing him. But yeah, thanks for what you do, Q. Peace out.
Thanks so much for the call. And yeah, Amik's a big loss, right? But he got a nice payday from Detroit. So it doesn't make me feel bad when he gets 2 years, almost $10 million, right? I could appreciate that. He earned that. This is a guy who made about $975,000, I believe, in 2022 or 2023, excuse me, with the Raiders. And now he's getting a payday where he's getting 2 years, almost $10 million. A guy that's dealt with a ton of adversity in his life growing up, and now he's getting rewarded for it. So, he's a little inconsistent at times. So, I mean, hey, he's going to go to Detroit and have an opportunity. I'm not mad, right? Some replacements could be in-house guys. How about Jacorian Bennett, the 4th-round pick out of Maryland? Brandon Faison didn't play hardly any last year because of a shin injury, but, he looks like he's healthy now. Maybe he could be a guy. The draft is deep in corners. It's deep in wide receivers, offensive tackles, corners. Not guards. No, not guards, but offensive tackles and wide receivers and corners. This draft is pretty deep in, so you could probably go there as well. As far as Simmons, like you mentioned, he's definitely a safety. So, yeah, he wouldn't fill that void at the corner position. That's really all I got time for. I got a text from Tadreese in New Jersey, Eric the Rock and Raider in Phoenix, and then a text from 209 Cocaine Raider. We'll get all that on Monday's show. We'll continue to, focus in on all things silver and black. Who knows what they'll do? Maybe they'll sign some more free agents today. Maybe they'll sign some more over the weekend. Who knows? But we'll be here to talk about it for sure come Monday. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.